blues, a rockin' girl. Rock, roll, Ruby, rock away my blues. Rock, roll, Ruby, rock away my blues. Give me that feeling I don't wanna never lose.
Oh, yeah. Good old rockabilly. That is Sonny West, ladies and gentlemen, doing Rock Ola Ruby, produced by Norman Petty in Clovis, New Mexico. And it's a great rare 45 if you can find it. On the other side is Sweet Rockin' Baby. Just great stuff. And I'm so honored and just excited about having Sonny on the show today at Your Buddy John podcast. Sonny is, of course, a Rockabilly Hall of Fame inductee. And for those that don't know, has a main writer credit on Rave On and Oh Boy, which became pretty recognizable songs for Mr. Buddy Holly. And he actually met him at one point in his life. We'll talk to him about that and a whole lot more. So excited to have him. Hope you enjoy this interview. Please welcome Sonny West. What a great honor and pleasure to have you here today. I've been wanting to get you on the show for a long time. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, sure. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, you're rock and roll royalty. So, and there's not many people that can say that they were actually involved with Buddy Holly's life. That's especially ones that are still with us. So I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Oh, good.
I wanted to start out asking you how you got involved with music. I read that your parents were sharecropper parents. Is that correct?
Yes. We actually, before I was born, my folks took some what do they call it, homesteading land in New Mexico. The government was trying to help people out after the Depression.
Yeah.
So they had some land that where they would allow you to have 160 acres of land if you could improve on it and stay there a certain length of time, then they'd give you title to it. So my folks tried that. I had two uncles and their wives, and then my dad and mom tried that, and that's kind of the way that started. And then my dad kind of stuck with farming and things like that the rest of his life.
Were you working on any of that with him as well? Like, were you doing any farming growing up as a kid?
Well, I was too young when we were there at that place, and
okay.
I was born in Lubbock, and I guess my folks were from Vernon, Texas, which is northeast of Lubbock, and then they traveled around a lot, of course, and we happened to be close to Lubbock whenever I was born, and then after that I went to New Mexico, back and forth from Texas to New Mexico. We wouldn't stay in one place very long, so I went to a lot of different schools, like maybe 24 different schools.
Wow.
I went to a school in California 2 or 3 different times, for a short length of time. So that was sort of the way I grew up. Is my brother was quite a lot older than me. Well, 6 years is a lot when you're young. And so then I had 2 sisters older than my brother. So I was the youngest one in the family. And so most of the time the other kids had to go out and work in the fields or whatever they had to do.
Right.
And by the time I got old enough to do that, times had changed quite a lot. So anyhow,
Sure.
by the time I was 18, I was back in West Texas.
And when did you start getting interested in music?
Oh, I was about out there in New Mexico. We were on a place that it had belonged to someone else. I guess we leased it or something like this. And they had left an old record player there, and I was 6 years old. So I was so fascinated with the record player. And of course, it's very scratchy records, things like that. But to me, it was a gold mine.
Yeah.
I didn't, because we had no radio, no utilities.
Wow.
Out there. So, long ways from town. And so you can imagine this was my connection to the world.
Right. What kind of records do you remember listening to? Or are there ones that influenced you musically, or?
Oh, the first ones were that Jimmy Rogers, the country Jimmy Rogers.
Oh yeah,
guy.
yeah, great.
And there were another artist, I believe it was Gene Austin, was similar to that. You know, they did some blues and some train songs and some yodeling. And then there was a few marching song records that I remember. One time they had probably about a half a dozen of John Philip Sousa's records, and you know, and you don't have much to pick from. You know, they were all
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it sounds like when I was a kid, I had to listen to my parents' records because I couldn't afford any, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, was anybody else in your family musically oriented? I mean, what inspired you to pick up a guitar and start playing? Just listening to the
Well,
records, or?
yeah, my dad was, you know, somewhat associated with music when he was younger, like singing in the church and in a quartet or something.
Sure.
When before he got married. After that, you know, it was all business, and so I remember something about that, and something about my grandfather. But you know, they weren't really interested in it as far as playing for money or playing for someone else's entertainment,
Right.
or something like that. So anyway, it just stuck with me, and as soon as I got able to get a guitar and start working on that, I was probably about 16 when I started, you know, being able to play some background to what I was trying to sing. So,
Yeah.
you know, rhythm, mostly
Sure.
rhythm. Learned chords and stuff, and then it just went on from there. When I got out of school, I you know, started looking around for someone that I could play with, and
Yeah.
or if I could get on the radio and play a few songs. You know, I didn't realize that you might have to have talent and things like that.
I think you're being a little modest there, Sonny.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I had a lot of drive and confidence at the time, you know. So
Sure.
since then, I've lost a little of it. But you know, when you're young, you always want to show somebody that what you've learned or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of the way it was.
Was this around about the time that Elvis Presley came out with That's All Right, Mama? Did that influence you a lot as far as like, hey, I want to do this rock and roll thing too? Or were you more initially kind of country western oriented?
Elvis had something to do with it, but it was kind of like a movement. I was always interested in the blues type. And of course, I wasn't living around where I could hear any of the Southern blues,
Yeah.
blues records, you know, what they used to call race records. I wasn't around where I could hear anything like that. And of course, most of the time we didn't have a radio when I was younger, but I was, whenever I heard things like Elvis and Joe Turner and Carl Perkins and you know, the Rock Around the Clock, things like that.
Sure.
These were things that it just fit into my psyche some way.
Yeah.
It was something that I wanted to do, and I didn't know exactly how, but that's the kind of records that that appealed to me. There was some songs that Hank Williams and Hank Snow did that were similar to what we call rockabilly.
Yeah, yeah.
That Hank Williams did 2 or 3 that were quite solid rockabilly type songs, and those were some that I were interested in. I think that was around 1953 or 54. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
The date.
Well, it was all happening back then. I mean, there was just this melding of country blues and Southern blues, and then Western and hillbilly bop, and all that was happening. Yeah, it's great. So how old were you when you recorded your great classic rockabilly tune, Rock Ola Ruby, which I'm a big fan of? It's such a great, it's such a great rockin' tune.
I was 18.
18, wow! And how did you get hooked up to record that at Norman Petty's, I believe, right?
Oh, yes, I recorded that in Norman Petty. Just before that, I was living in New Mexico with my brother and sister-in-law, and up in northern New Mexico, and I got a job at a Ford dealership, like chasing parts or something. And I saved up enough money that I could go to Memphis. And so, against all odds, and also against anything that my family thought I should do,
Yeah.
I saved up a little money, and I had paid down on a car. So I took off to Memphis. I thought, hey, this is probably the center of the universe.
Right.
And so, at least they would understand what I wanted to do, whether I got to do it or not there. I didn't know. I think by that time, probably Elvis has already left the building.
Sure.
But it was still fresh, and there were so many people doing that, trying to do what I was doing. I didn't realize it at the time how many there were.
Sure.
And so I actually went there to Memphis, and I hung around in the waiting room there long enough till finally Sam came out.
You're talking about Sam Phillips at Sun Records, right?
Sam Phillips, yeah, he came out, and I told him, I said, well, I got the idea that I want to do some recording, and I've got some ideas for songs and stuff. And he said, oh, I'm just so busy today, And anyway, he said, I've got so many people coming in here wanting to record. He said, I just don't have time to listen to you. So I didn't say very much. I was really disappointed, of course.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm thinking, what the heck am I going to do now? I have no plan B. And so my sister was living in Levelland, which is close to Lubbock.
Yeah.
And that's the town that I had lived in and gone to school at a time or two in my life. And so I called her up after I run out of money, trying to get back to Texas. I called her up, and I was asked her, if she'd send me some money, I want to come back to Levelland. And she sent me $15. I was in Fort Worth, and so that bought me enough gas to get back to Levelland. And to get to the answer of your question, though, the main thing is I got some guys together that wanted to play right away. Two of them were still in high school. And so my brother-in-law was probably the only member of my family that, gave me some encouragement. And so I kind of relied on that, and I had him he helped me to line up the recording in Clovis.
What was it like working at Norman Petty's studio?
Well, what I did was I got a couple of songs ready to record, and we were going to start our own label. I talked to my brother-in-law, and we had these plans, we're going to do this and that. But whenever we got around to it, I talked to the radio people in Lubbock, and they recommended, if I was wanting to make something, somebody that had really good equipment was in Clovis, and that's how I got in touch with Norman. And so we made an appointment to go over and talk to him about this, and he said, well, it takes too long to get the artwork and all this stuff for a record, and anyway, what are you going to do with it if it doesn't go? What are you going to do with? You're going to spend quite a bit of money that way. And I told him we'll record a couple of songs, and I had my own musicians and stuff. So he said, I can get he didn't have his studio finished, the echo chamber, because I told him, it's got to have some kind of echo in it. I can't.
Got to have that rockabilly sound, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do a flat record. So he said, I can get the theater. I can rent the theater after they close some night, and you come over and we'll record there. So so that's how that worked out. And he said, we'll put your record out on my label. I'll just charge you, just for the a few cents for each record or something for using the label and having it pressed by RCA in Chicago. So this all sounded pretty good to me. So
Sure.
that's how that worked out. So I didn't actually record the first song in the studio, which wouldn't have mattered anyway.
Right.
The theater worked out fine, and Norman had new equipment. He had the Ampex recorders. They were called portable, but they really weren't.
They were heavy.
They were very heavy, yeah, big
Yeah.
recorders. But anyway, that's what happened. We set up on the stage after the show was over one night, and he just set up a couple of mics and then we had the reverberation from the hall sound of the theater. So
That was the Lyceum Theater, is that right?
Yeah, the Lyceum Theater, built back in 1920.
Wow.
And so they built them kind of like cathedrals at the time. So that was good.
Good acoustics.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. So the song, had a good sound anyway.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, how did you get that guitar tone? It's so fantastic. Do you remember how you got that?
That was a guy that I had met up in Farmington, New Mexico, and I got him to come out, and I thought maybe we could get some jobs, and he could just stay there in West Texas. But as it worked out, that didn't work. But anyway, he did the guitar playing on that. He was sort of I guess you would call it a thumb picking style. And so, a lot of it was.
Sure.
And he played a Les Paul Jr., I believe it was, that. And also, I guess it's just the way he had it turned or had it turned up, or it was something about the strings that it had a kind of a ringing sound, which was perfect for that song.
Really perfect. And the amplifier, it just sounded great.
Yeah.
Do you remember his name? You remember his name, Sonny?
I know his name, but
oh, no problem.
I don't know how to contact him because his name is like Buddy Smith. How can you be?
Oh, yeah.
That's a generic name.
It's like Mr. Jones or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. And, I don't really remember what his actual name was. In Texas, they all got nicknames. So
Sure.
I know he lived somewhere. His mom, I know, lived in somewhere in north of Lubbock, and I don't remember. I got out of touch with him, and I could find him anymore. So yeah. I don't know if he did any more with music or not. And then the drummer then went to college after that. So did the bass player. I had the double bass player from Levelland, and the drummer was from Levelland.
Nice.
So I had a nice 4-piece band and nowhere to go.
Yeah. So that record came out. It was a 45, Rockola Ruby on one side, and the other side was Sweet Rockin' Baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I take it, though it's very much appreciated today, for some reason it didn't hit so much with the public other than maybe locally. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Unfortunately.
do anything with it. I we had no knowledge of what we were doing.
Sure.
When I say we, I mean me and my brother-in-law. I had no way to know what to do, and Norman Petty was not really interested in promoting it. So, we were kind of like on our own.
Yeah.
That's at least we got the record, and there was some 78 pressed also. So.
Oh, nice.
And so anyway, it took quite a few years for that to get to Europe and England, and then the people really started paying attention to it. I thought that but I'd never hear it again, in 1960.
Yeah. No, it's everybody knows it now. I was looking at it on YouTube the other day, and you should see all the comments. People love it.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
It's interesting, like that Europeans sometimes appreciate the rockabilly stuff more than Americans, and
Oh yeah,
certainly later
yeah.
anyway.
Oh yeah, they had and they know this.
And they
Know the
know it.
music.
They know it
They know
word
the
by
music
word,
a lot more
everything,
than
note by note. It's
they.
crazy.
Absolutely, they know the music, and uh, they well, they like all of the American music
Yeah,
and American cars and stuff. They like the American culture.
right.
So yeah, the rockabilly really got resurgence in England, and and France and Spain
Yeah,
and Italy, because I've been to all those places, the last 30 years, 20, 30 years, and all know like those type of things. They'd have the whole weekend with a lot of local bands, and they'll have a few American bands for the headliners.
cool. When you went over there, did you bring your own band, or did you just play with the guys there since they know
Oh,
your
I
stuff
just
so well?
had to play. I just had to play with the pickup band or the guys there.
Yeah,
Anyway, they were good.
yeah,
I had no band here at that time. That
sure,
was later.
sure.
So anyway, that worked out okay. It was because they know what they're doing over there, and they're so keen on finding out exactly how you did this stuff. And
Right. So that record comes out. It's kind of a disappointment. What did you do in the meantime before you penned the fantastic classic Rave On? Was that first before Oh Boy, or was that?
no, oh boy was
Or
first.
would you? Okay,
Yeah,
so what'd you do
yeah.
before Oh Boy came out, or you got that
Oh,
going?
I was still trying. I stayed there in Levelland. I had to pick up some odd jobs, manual labor jobs, and things like that. I had to pick up, and then I decided that rock rockabilly was not where I was at. I was going to have to change make the songs more palatable for
Wider
uh,
audience.
yeah, a different audience. Yeah,
Sure, sure.
yeah, because the rockabilly, was a male-dominated society,
Right.
and it was, and seems like the girls went along with it because that's what the guys wanted, and and after that, I said, these songs are going to have to be a little bit more for teenagers in general, and so that's when I started changing, and that was couple of months after that, figured out that my first record was not going to go anywhere, and I couldn't spend any more money on it.
Yeah.
So it was that was by that time we were right at the beginning of 1957, and that's when I wrote Oh Boy, and I went back to Clovis, to get some demo records. So that was early part of 57. Turned out when I went back to Clovis and was wanting him to make the demos for me,
Yeah.
then about that same time, Buddy Holly I'm talking about,
Yeah.
he found that he had lost his contract with Decca in Nashville, so he was going back over to Clovis too, because I don't know if he had ever been there before, but I know when he went back, and they started working on the song "That'll Be the Day," because he had recorded that in Nashville, but the Nashville people didn't know how to record Buddy, and they were not interested in his way of doing things. So the whole story there, probably that just didn't work out. Anyway, I had written this song, Oh Boy. I called it All My Love, and Norman had this record cutting machine where you could go over and make a demo, and so I took a drummer and a piano player over, and then I think a horn player. That's all I could find for going to make a demo. And
Yeah.
and so I did the demo and got some discs. So because that's the only way I could send anything off to to a record company or a publisher. You know, that's the only way I had of transmitting the thing to them, because we had no way of sending tapes
Right.
around. So that's what I did with that, and that's where Buddy heard my demo that I did over there, and as it turned out, That'll Be the Day turned out to be a real big song.
Yeah.
As you well know, I've heard you do it
Yeah,
1,000 times,
it's a smash hit,
maybe
yeah.
100 times anyway. And so he wanted to do his follow-up recording of my song, to follow up That'll Be the Day, which that really kicked me off then. I mean, I started getting some successes going.
Yeah. It's amazing because a lot of people probably don't even realize that everybody, when they hear Oh Boy or Rave On, they think it's such a Buddy Holly type sound and a song.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like he wrote it, but it's fascinating to me that you actually wrote it, but Buddy somehow made it his own. He
did.
Had you met him before this occurred? When he heard your demo, did you meet him anywhere, like at a radio station or anything? Or
I met him a year or so before that in Lubbock, and when I was trying to make my debut with my own records and stuff, I met him at a radio station. What's the name of the station there? I can't remember.
KDAV or
KDAV, yeah. Yeah, of course, from Dave Stone. So far back in my mind, but it is in there.
Yeah.
I met him. They had I was over in Lubbock one time it was my brother-in-law's family had a reunion there at McKenzie Park. I remember that, and they said, let's go over to the radio station. You can do a song. And so I went over there, and I think that's the first time I met Buddy, because he was just, he had done a couple of songs, and he was just about to leave. And so I met him and talked to him a little bit there. And I guess that's the first time I met him. And then I met him a few times around Lubbock whenever he was there. And
sure.
We went to the same places and stuff like that. Same record shops and same music stores. So that's kind of the way that worked.
Very cool. And Rave On, that expression did you hear that from Carl Perkins' 1956 release Dixie Fried? Is that where you got that?
I believe that's the first time I had heard it. I don't know. I think so. That's when I was working with Bill Tillman, the other person that's listed on my records. He was living in Levelland also. Though he wasn't a musician, he always fancied himself to be a writer. So he must have been more influential in picking out that title than I was. And so
okay.
I guess that's one reason why he has his name on that.
I was going to ask you about that, because there's on both those records, there's your name, Bill Tillman, and Norman Petty. And I believe, quote, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Norman Petty thing was, he would put his name on there to, of course, get some publishing, but he would claim it would help the DJs recognize his name, so they would help them spin their records. Is that what he would tell you?
He never told me that. I heard that later, but
yeah,
he might have said something about that. I don't know, but anyway, it was just mainly another way for him to get. He always said, "Well, I spend more time here, with these guys." He did spend a lot of time with Buddy.
Yeah,
but that's he took half the song right off the top, which is the publishing, and none of us knew anything about publishing music.
Yeah, I know a lot of artists back then
didn't think about the time, what's in the future. All we thought about was today.
Sure.
And of course, Norman was a few years older than us and a lot more experienced with the publishing and royalties. So he just basically filled out the forms with his name on them. And so he took half the song right off the top, and then he took a third. You know, if there was two writers, then he took the third of that song. So it
Wow.
made him a majority owner
Jeez.
right off the top. So yeah, that's what he did with. Actually, I had written "Oh Boy" without the help of Bill Tillman
Yeah.
or Norman Petty, but Bill Tillman and I, would run around together and have a few beers together and things like this. So when we could get money to go to the bootlegger, and dry state, dry county.
Yeah.
So we started. He's seen that Norman was interested in publishing the song, "Oh Boy," and so he kept after me. He said, "Well, why don't you put my name down there because it'll give me some
Credibility
as in the future." And he says, when if it turns out to be something pretty big or something, he said, "I'll give it back to you," something like that.
Yeah.
I made so many bad decisions, but hey, they're there, and I can't help it.
Yeah. Well, you guys were like the Lennon and McCartney of your day, right? Where some of the songs that Paul would write entirely on his own, Lennon's name would still be next to it, right?
Sure. And if this would have worked out a little bit different the way I thought it might, I said, well, we can always write another song.
Yeah.
But what do how can you tell somebody, well, you're not going to write another classic probably in your whole life? You may not.
Exactly.
So anyway, that's the way that worked. And Buddy, he did the song, and even yet his version of the song is probably the one that everybody recognizes, even though there's been 100 covers.
Oh, sure.
On both of those songs that I wrote. There's been many covers, but Buddy's is the one that he put his own signature on these songs, his signature sound. That's one thing about Buddy and Norman both. They knew how to make a song where it was different than the last one.
Right. It's just, and they sound so good. They sound so fresh even today.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
Rave On is just, it's like a rock and roll anthem today. It's just, it's a classic. Yeah. And it's interesting that when it first came out, it did better in the UK than it did in the US. Like it.
It did. Yeah. Well, Oh Boy, it did also, but especially with Rave On, there's the story about that time was I put out Rave On. I guess we didn't get to that part of it. You probably know about that I got a contract with Atlantic Records. Well, Buddy wanted to record Rave On, and I said, well, I'm going to get a contract. At least that's what Norman says, that I can get a contract if I put the song out. So I'll let me put it out. If it doesn't go anywhere, then you release your record of it. And so that's how it was with Rave On. And sure enough, it went that way, that mine, being an unknown artist, and there was a pretty big flood of records coming out at that time. Also, there was the what they call payola was going on.
Oh, yeah.
About the time, I think that was 1958, the spring or summer of 58, around that time. So it probably didn't help the record sales, when they had all of the investigations in Congress.
Right.
Payola. You remember Alan Freed?
Oh, yeah.
And, they tried to charge him with payola and stuff. And he was the real lifeblood of the radio in New York. And those big shows that they used to have at the Paramount, the shows, well, like the one that they had in the movie.
Alan Freed's Show of Stars.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of artists would go on there to get their name out there, and it was a real good thing. Anyway, my record come out in February. My record of Rave on. I got a contract with Atlantic Records. I didn't like the record the way I did it,
Hmm.
and I was disappointed with it. But I thought, well, we'll give it a shot, and how can we lose? I'll wind up, owing Atlantic Records, but they have to collect it out of royalties, so I'll never pay it back.
Right.
So that's what happened, and Buddy waited 2 months and then put his Rave On out, the one that everyone knows. I think that was April of 1958 by the time that came out. Mine came out in February. So I've got I have an ad, and the ad from Billboard magazine that mine come out in February, and so I didn't get much action on it. That's all there is to it, So naturally, they didn't put out any more of mine. So
what didn't you like about your release? Was it the way it was arranged, or was it just?
Yeah, it was. It was like it wasn't arranged at all.
Oh.
The Big Beats were a rock and roll dance band, and so most all of their songs, just out of necessity, I guess they sound about the same.
Oh, okay.
And they have a saxophone-driven band. Trini Lopez was playing the guitar, by the way.
No kidding! Wow.
On my records of Rave On. But of course you don't hear the guitar very much.
Yeah.
But the sax is right in there, and piano. So this is like a 5-piece band, and it seemed like we didn't really plan on having it, to be to come out as a new artist. You need something that's going to be different, and
right.
And it didn't have that different sound. As far as I know, it sounded okay, but it just didn't have it seemed like the song was recorded like perfunctory. That's all.
Sure. No, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm not saying anything bad about myself or the band. It's just that's the way it turned out. It didn't have the excitement that I thought it should, and it didn't have the rhythm that I thought it should. So it's a difficult song. You've done it many times.
It's a really difficult song to get a drummer to really.
Yeah. The drummer has to play lead. Yeah,
it's like you got to be really on top of your game with the drums on that song, and also
that's what's so good about Allison. So he played with Buddy Holly so long that they could read each other's mind all the time.
Totally.
So anyway, he knew what to do with the song, and of course Dick Jacobs was the orchestra director. So Buddy didn't play guitar on Rave On, and so and Norman actually played piano on Rave On. So they had time to cook up an arrangement.
Right.
But that's what producers do. They arrange songs and orchestra directors. Anyway, they had like 8 people in the studio for backup singers. They didn't need them, but they have a lot of stuff in New York. But that Rave On was so it was a strange. In order to make it exciting, it just had to work that way. Buddy didn't have to think about his playing. All he had to think about was doing the song, and they had 2 electric guitar players. One of them being Al Caiola, which was a big recording artist in his own right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that worked out really great. They recorded that like on a Saturday night or something, or a Saturday, and Buddy appeared on the Ed Sullivan show the next night, like Sunday night.
Is that right?
So that was his weekend. He was high. He was really high as a kite.
I can imagine.
on his successes.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was going good. Peggy Sue had been a big hit. That'll Be the Day. Oh Boy was that'll maybe Baby were big hits. So he was I mean, they were taking a lot of his money, but he was still he was still in La La Land.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially
And
especially when you're
when
that
he
age,
did
right?
Rave On, and you can tell it that he was in total control of the song,
Yeah.
or he has that sound like I'm really excited about this, and he got up there and did the song and then shut up, and that's uh, a minute and 45 seconds, and that's it.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful
And
arrangement.
and if I could add a little bit more, the American teenagers had no idea what he was talking about
Right.
with Rave On, and that's why they didn't buy his record of Rave On that much. It was over their head.
Sure.
It's still over a lot of people's heads. You say, well, what song do you write? Rave On. How does that go? I never heard that.
Really? Where have these people been?
They never understood what it meant. Anyway, what it actually meant was to carry on. That's to carry on with what you're doing. They used that to get back to. I'm talking way too much.
Not at all. Not at all.
To get back to the how this song started, how the title started.
Yeah.
It was that was a expression of affirmation in the South.
Oh,
But
cool.
it was, and they used that in church a lot.
Rave On.
Like Amen and things
Yeah.
like this. But the teenagers, it didn't really catch on with the teenagers. It was a little dorky sounding or something.
Sure,
And-
sure.
And a lot of things you can say, a lot of things you can sing that you can't say,
Yeah.
and vice versa. You know that from writing and
Mhm.
singing songs. There's some expressions that you wouldn't want to tell a girl. If you're going out with this girl, you wouldn't want to tell her Rave On. It sounds kind of stupid, wouldn't it?
You're right.
But you can sing it, and it sounds so much better. When you say that you like me and you say you love me, just keep on saying it. I
Yeah.
love to hear it. This is the whole thing.
I just love the fact that those songs were, a lot of songs from the 50s were like a minute and a half or 2 minutes long. They're just the perfect length,
Oh yeah,
I listen to
Yeah.
too many songs today that are 3.5, 4.5, 5 minutes long even. And some of them are, I guess you'd call them hits, but to me, I've got the point about 2 minutes into them and I don't want to hear anymore.
yeah, I know it. And the album rock that they had in the
70s.
let's say 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Golly, I hear those songs and I like the songs, but after they play about 30 songs, then they're right back to the first one again. And like you said, there's some 5, 6, 7 minutes long that I don't know if they can keep my attention that long.
Yeah, right.
I like the songs that were 2 or 3 minutes, but if they were good, I wanted to hear them again.
Yeah.
And that's why people went and bought the records and said, I can't get enough of that.
Exactly. That's a really good point. It's like you want to hear it more. It's like it's that classic showbiz thing where you always leave them wanting more, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
If you go droning on into the night, yeah, that's crazy. That was those were really great times, though.
So how cool was it when you're riding around in your car one day and you hear Buddy Holly's Rave On cranking on the radio? You must have been pinching yourself, right?
Oh yeah, sure. With Oh Boy, it was that I was working at a cotton gin and an Oh Boy actually was released.
Yeah.
Must have been around October of '57, something like that. And so I'd go in the office. I was working at night at the cotton gin. I would haul the bales of cotton out to the yard and stack them in a field, stack them in rows.
Sure.
And so I'd go in the office to get a cup of coffee or warm my hands up or something. And I'd flip the radio. They had AM radio stations, all we had. I'd flip it around somewhere, and I could hear, oh boy, almost any time of the night. I could,
Oh God.
if you spend about 5 or 10 minutes in front of the radio, turning back and forth on the major radio stations, and because late at night, especially in Texas, being flat as it is, you had a lot of radio stations you could pick up. They might not be there very long; they'll fade away. But I could hear that, and just about any time of the night. I guess that's about as high as you can get off of music. Is
Oh
you
man.
hear something like that, and you've waited a long time to ever get the realization of something, and oh, that was amazing when you could do that.
Oh yeah.
Then you could just tell somebody, "Hey, this is my song."
That's my song. I wrote that. That's Buddy Holly singing my song.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. Did
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Sure you did. That's what they
yeah,
say.
right. Yeah, right, buddy. Right. Those two songs came out relatively within what, like 4, 5, 6 months from each other? Oh Boy and Rave On?
Something like that. Yeah. I
So
think, oh boy.
so that kind of put you on the map in the songwriting world. Did you get some good did some record labels or anybody come to you and say, wow, you wrote those two great songs for Buddy Holly. Can you write me something else for this artist? Did that happen, or did people just kind of not work that way back then?
Well, I didn't have very many connections, with
Yeah.
being in West Texas. I was still, when Rave On came out, I was still in Level Land, and shortly after that, my sister and brother-in-law and myself moved to Odessa, which is down south. I don't know if you've been there.
I don't think I
South
have.
of about 120 miles or so south of Lubbock, and moved down there. And I really didn't have very many connections with the music world, and I tried some more recordings at Norman's place, so that put all my energy into trying to get some more songs for, not so much for myself, but to get the song recorded so that I could get maybe other artists interested and things like that.
Yeah.
But it just this is the whole the downer of this interview is this things kind of started. I started getting pretty depressed about stuff because I stopped to think that things were not working out very good with Clovis.
Sure.
And I said I'll have to do something else. I got so many bills coming in. I'd spent money like I was making money, and
Yeah.
and then I found out these royalties take quite a long time to trickle down.
Yes.
That's the trickle down stuff. And I was just getting very disillusioned with everything, and so this is how it leads up to February of 1959. Is that I had split with Norman. Buddy had split with Norman and started a lawsuit against him to try to get some of his royalties.
Yeah.
I had split with Norman, and I also had tried to get a lawsuit going, but it was very difficult. You can't find a lawyer out here that knows anything about music royalties. They don't even know enough about oil royalties, so sure don't know about music. Anyhow, I got a job back in New Mexico, a town that I lived in when I was younger, out west of Albuquerque. I got a job out there because my brother had moved down there, and he was working at a uranium mill, and uranium was the big thing in 58 and 59. Mining and milling uranium in New Mexico and Colorado and Wyoming was big. And so it was a boom town. I got a job there, and that's where I was when Buddy got killed. I was working on a midnight shift at a uranium mill. So I come back to town the next day, and I found out that he had gotten killed. And I said, I've been really depressed about this. I thought I was doing really good, and I had talked to Buddy, before. Well, the last time I saw him, I guess probably in '58
Mm-hmm.
sometime. But he wanted me to send more music to him and stuff like that. Not that he said he was going to record them, but he said, I would like to listen to some other stuff that you have. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, that's great. I'm getting some ideas together. Next time we get together, I'll show you some of my ideas. And of course, I never saw him again. So this whole thing was kind of, it was just really hard to take. I thought this is, I made some money. I made a little bit of a reputation, and now I don't know where I'm at.
Sure.
So, of course, the thing with Buddy was very depressing because, he's a young guy and he's in the prime of life.
Yep.
And he was still really a viable artist. So he was my vehicle, and so that was pretty tough. Of course, it was more tough, not just the music wise, but just because he was a good guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No,
And,
I mean,
he deserved more than he got.
yeah.
And so I don't know what would have happened if that hadn't have happened. I'm probably getting on to some territories in this, talking about things that maybe you were not wanting to contact.
No,
concentrate on.
this is good to hear because I
Okay.
mean, I was one of my questions I'd written down is what do you remember
Yeah.
where you were when
Okay.
you heard about Buddy's plane crash?
Yeah, that's where it was at, and then and so it was. That was my experience with Texas, and after I left there, I said I'm not ever going back to Texas, and this may be a negative. It definitely is, but I said I don't think I'll ever go back to Texas again, and so 40 years later, I came back.
See, never say never.
The gods said, you got more time left, so go back over there.
So you got in 2000, BMI gave you a Millionaire Achievement Award for the record "Oh Boy." That must have felt kind of a nice positive thing to occur.
Oh yeah, that's good. They used to give those for the airplays. I don't know if they do that anymore or not, but yeah, I got that. I think it was year 2000, and that was that's great to get something like that. It gives you some recognition and stuff like that. So I'm glad that happened. I'm glad a lot of things happened.
Absolutely. And Rockabilly Hall of Fame inductee in 2016.
Oh, Rockabilly Hall was in the 90s.
Oh, was that in the 90s? Okay.
Yeah, that was Walk of Fame 2016, Walk of Fame in Lubbock.
Oh, Walk of Fame in 2016. Okay.
And also New Mexico Music Hall of Fame. So I got these Hall of Fame things. What am I going to do with them? Hang them on the wall. Well, the Walk of Fame thing was I like that. Then I've got this. Buddy Holly has a new name. Well, he's got his name so far on this new hall they built in Lubbock.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen the pictures of it. It looks really nice.
Yeah, it's a fantastic building. I was over there in the latter part of 2019, and when they were building it, I got a tour of the place, and it's a freestanding building that's built from the ground up, many millions of dollars, and it's entertainment and performance arts are in charge of the thing. Right now they call it Buddy Holly Hall of Music or something like that. So they got the Albertsons and United supermarkets went in together, and they're owned by the same people now. So they got the food concessions for this big hall. It's called Rave On, the restaurant.
See, there you go, Sonny.
Oh, that's big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really big. And this hall is just fantastic. They got they can put on Broadway shows or anything else in that hall. They've got a huge stage, and then everybody has a front row seat, just about.
Well,
if that's the
they
way.
got to get you up there on the stage and singing your classic songs there.
Yeah. Then they have another stage, for smaller audiences there. So it's a great thing. So that's what's happening in Lubbock. They finally came around and doing a lot of things. So what's happening in your life? You're
Well,
still going through the Midwest with your shows?
yeah, occasionally. Of course, right now we can't because of the pandemic, but
Yeah, of course. Yeah, everybody's grounded right
everybody's
now.
grounded, and so I've just been doing a lot of songwriting, and I
Good.
meet with some friends on the, what do you call it, the internet Zoom thing, and
Uh-huh.
we get together every Sunday and critique each other's songs, and
Uh-huh.
just try to get them as good as possible. And then I've got a little studio in my house that I record some stuff on, and I released an album past October, but yeah, it's been a real drag not being able to. I'm so used to performing on stage and bringing, smiles and laughter and joy to people that I've been
Yeah.
missing that tremendously.
Oh yeah,
So,
sure. That's it. It's been so sad for well, all the entertainment people, but musicians especially, they just got nothing else to do now with
yeah.
this. They can try the virtual thing and things like that, but it's just very hard to
It's
do.
very hard, and the virtual thing's just not the same as being
No, it's
live.
just not the same. It's kind of like a virtual ball game,
Exactly.
It's just not. Yeah, that's just not the thing. And who would ever thought that something like this would happen? That would,
I know.
and so it affects so many people in the restaurant business and all that stuff too. But
Yeah.
it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. Is George still playing?
He still plays. He plays with a like a little bluegrass band and a jazz band up in. He lives in Petaluma, California. It's about an hour north of San Francisco, I guess.
Yeah.
Small town, and
Yeah.
gets together with some guys up there. But he decided to retire from my show because he was kind of tired of the travel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as you know, that
I
can
can
get
understand
pretty
that.
wearing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's the greatest thing in the world the first 2 weeks. But
Exactly.
that's what I used to say. And after that, it gets a little bit of a drag. But of course, you're up there, in the spotlight, so it's different for you.
Well,
So,
it's
it's
yeah,
a good
I
thing.
understood where he's coming from because it ever since that stupid unfortunate thing we had with 911 where and then the plane flying
Yeah.
became all this
Yeah.
gobbledygook
Yeah.
you have to go through to get on the plane, that kind of
Oh yeah.
made it
Yeah.
more difficult. But
Yeah.
man, George and I
mm,
sure enjoyed. I think the first time I met you was at the Clovis Music Festival.
Yeah.
I think it was in
Oh, yeah.
2005 or somewhere in there, 2004.
Yeah. Yeah. 5, I think. But oh yeah, the George, he's a excellent guitar player.
Oh
Gosh,
yeah, he's the best. He was a
he
child
just- he
prodigy
just-
with that thing.
yeah, he just feels it all over. I can tell, and he passes it on through the sounds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he's
really
great.
he
He's
respects the authenticity of that music for sure. Like he really knows how to
Yeah.
duplicate it, and but he really enjoyed meeting you as did I, and
Yeah.
that was just great times. That's some of my favorite memories doing
Yeah,
that. Are
well,
they still
good.
doing that music festival or no?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The Clovis. Well, of course, before the
Pandemic, yeah.
pandemic, then I went over there for 3 years. I think 5, 6, and 7. Then after that, I don't know. If for a while, I think they kind of went on the way they were, and then later on, I didn't hear very many good things about it. But I don't know if it was big enough to pay for itself. And I think they were
Right.
just having some trouble like that. But
Yeah, I heard they kind
as
of
far as I know-
I heard they kind of got away from the 50s music.
Oh yeah, they couldn't follow on. Well, they couldn't hardly follow up having you over there, and your troupe. Whenever like in 5, 6, and 7 in there,
Yeah.
they couldn't keep that up. for some reason. So I guess their sponsors didn't want to shell out any money, and then it just kind of it seemed like to me that there wasn't much going on, so I didn't go back after that.
Sure,
so,
sure.
I could have gone probably because I was living, within 300 miles of there. I could have probably gone, but I just didn't ever put it on my calendar.
Sure.
The last time I heard was, shortly after that, Bobby V quit playing, and then he passed away. So I think his son, our sons were playing over there for a year or two.
Yeah, sure. Kind of helped running it, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 5 kids, is that correct?
No, I have 2 kids. I think that was on the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
The person that did the Wikipedia, they actually just copied other interviews.
Oh.
So actually, I tried to get them to
correct it,
to do a piece on me, and let me tell them what was really what, because I was trying to distance myself from some of the other Sonny West people out there. But I could never get through to them. Anyway, I noticed that was on Wikipedia that I had 5 kids. Actually, Dottie had 3 kids and I had 2.
Oh, okay. So, I got you.
She passed away in the first part of 2018. And so her children are still here, in Arizona and New Mexico. And I have 2 girls from a previous marriage that they live here nearby where I live.
Oh, nice.
And so I moved to be closer to them. I'm not real close, but close enough.
Right.
So that we can visit and also have our own space. I'm living in Northeast Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
I told you we're behind the rest of the world in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, that's the way it is. Like in Kansas City, at 4 o'clock in Kansas City, it's 3:45 in Grove, Oklahoma.
I love it. Are your daughters musically inclined at all? Did they pick up any instrument?
No, not much. One of them, made some recordings with the computer and stuff like that, with the karaoke type recordings.
Sure.
I thought she did real good, but it's not enough. She's, I guess she's got too many other interests. So
that's
kind of the way it is. So they're both workaholics, about like me. I didn't work in music all that much, but I've worked at many different things. In the 60s, I worked on jukeboxes for about 10 years. So
wow,
that's the way I kind of supported myself and my family at the time. So.
Sure. Wow, I love jukeboxes.
Yeah, me too.
You still have one by any chance?
I don't. Too much moving.
Yeah.
Too much moving. I don't have hardly anything that I had before, but I got pictures and a few records, but not very much of anything.
Did I read somewhere that you have made your own guitars, or is that another one of those Wikipedia?
No, I made guitars. In the 2000s, while I was in Abilene, I probably made around 100 guitars.
No kidding.
Electric. We're talking electric guitars, not acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
I wouldn't attempt, like a Martin or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
But I made a lot of either semi-hollow or solid body electric guitars. Yeah. And then I took some that were already made and customized them.
Very cool.
But I had there's quite a few out. Well, I've sold all of them because I've probably only got 4, 5, 6 left. But I made some different ones. I made some kind of like the Bo Diddley style with the rectangle.
Oh,
I
nice.
made some that were kind of like the airline Supro.
Oh yeah.
That's before your time. Probably.
I think George has one of those. George has he always finds these
Yeah,
old guitars in a
yeah,
thrift store somewhere.
yeah. I made some. This one that I was talking about, the Airline Supro, it's a polygon. It's an odd shaped with different angles.
Oh, neat.
The body, is shaped like a. It's got quite a few different angles. Then I made some where I put I called them the cattle brand guitars, so I could cut it. I could cut the cattle brand in there, like some famous Texas brands like XIT
Sure.
and things like that. So I put that. I think I made about a dozen of those. They're just kind of like one-offs.
Yeah.
Then I made some out of mesquite wood. So the solid bodies. Mesquite wood is in Texas. It's very hard wood, probably next to the hardest wood there is. And so it makes a good sound because it has so much sustain.
Sure.
The body. So it'd be kind of like the early tellies.
Yeah.
Weigh about 12 pounds or something.
Are you going to be able to, once this pandemic gets under control, are you going to still go to Europe and tour over there, or you going to kind of kick back for a bit?
I don't know. I might go. If they had some shows where I could just go and play one gig at one night with some bands like that. It's a lot of traveling, but you got to do something with your life.
Right.
I'd probably do something like that. I've been working on some of my songs that I've always planned on finishing, and I wouldn't mind doing some shows here in the States, but I don't want to do a whole night anywhere. I just want to do a few songs with, just as a guest and something like that. And just so I can get out.
Yeah. Well,
and also I gotta show somebody some of my new songs, and one of these days I'll find somebody that actually likes them.
I'm sure they will. I would love to hear them myself. And I think next time we're in Oklahoma or Texas, I got to invite you to come out and sing with us. I'd love to have you come on stage again. That'd be great.
Oh, that'd be great, John. I like to do that. If I can just go in there, we can do 2 or 3 songs together, or something.
That'd be fun.
The old standards.
Yeah, I love them. Well, you're a classy guy, and I really respect what you did. And I think you're very modest about your position in rock and roll history. I think you're definitely one of the the troubadours of 2 classic songs, Rave On and Oh Boy. I mean, it's quite an accomplishment, and it's an honor to have you on the show. And I'm just always thrilled to talk to you. And
well, I'm sure glad you asked me. That's what I always tell people is when they stop asking you, that's when you got to worry. I don't worry when you ask me to do something or to talk about the old days or something. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about it when you stop asking me. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Sonny, you take great care, and please be safe in this pandemic. And I sure hope I get to talk to you again soon. I mean, okay. I'd love to talk with you off the air sometime, just to shoot the shit. You know what I mean? And
yeah, sure. Yeah, and you got my number. I don't plan on changing it. So if I do, I'll let you know. Anyway, I've got you on Messenger anyway. So yeah, that'd be good. Yeah,
that'd be great. And feel free to send me. I'd love to hear your songs sometime. So I'm.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I'll get some stuff recorded, or at least a verse or two, and let you take a listen to them.
I tell you what, I'll finish them up for you, and I won't even ask for songwriting credit. I'll give you all the credit.
Oh, John, come on now. If we ever did anything like that and it did something, it'd be so great. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. So
yeah.
I look forward to it. Well, you take great care, Sonny. It's just been a blast talking to you. And
you too. Be safe now.
You take good care. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Yeah, don't be a stranger.
Sure won't. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Sonny West. Man, that was fun. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Well, folks, we don't have any advertisers or sponsors for this podcast so far, and which is fine. I just wanted to ask for a little favor. If you could go to your Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast at, and make sure you like and subscribe to it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything other than a click, and that way it really helps us get the word out about the show, and I'd really appreciate that. If you'd like to see where the Winter Dance Party is going to be at next, go to winterdanceparty.com. My original music is at johnmuellermusic.com. And take good care out there. Be safe. And we'll see you on down the line.
Hey, buddy, we'll see you on down the